Hey YouTube, 3D Printed Life here, and today I've got a nice big box and a surprise video. So the guys over at GearBest contacted me and asked if I would like to do a 3D printer review for my channel, so I said sure, why not. Sends over a printer, and here it is. So this is the TronXY X5S 3D printer. Now, full disclaimer, they did send me this printer free of charge to keep, and I will also be posting a link down below where you can purchase it for yourself if you are interested. It is an affiliate link, however, I will not be pocketing any of that money. Whatever money comes from that will go towards either upgrading this 3D printer, or it will go towards getting new 3D printers and probably giving a bunch of stuff away, depending on how much it is. But I don't want you guys to think I'm like selling out or anything. I'm not going to be keeping any of that money. It's all going straight back into either this printer or other stuff to give away. With that out of the way, these are going to be my honest opinions on this 3D printer. I will only recommend it if I really do feel so that it is worth recommending. And as you can see, it is open, and I did take a look, and so far things are looking pretty promising. Now, this is a pretty cheap 3D printer. It's only about $300. But it's a large-scale printer. It is pretty much the same build area as the very popular CR10S that is currently spreading around YouTube like wildfire. So, basically, this is a direct competitor with the CR10S. However, rather than going with the separate X, Y, and Z stages, this guy is a Core XY printer. And you guys know I like Core XY printers, and that is exactly why I wanted to give this one a shot. Now, once you open up the box, there's just this quick wiring diagram. And this is handy because the extruder and the heated bed modules are actually fully pre-assembled, as you will see. So that's basically just how you plug it in. I won't need that. I can figure it out for myself. Give you some PLA to start. Don't really care about that. This is that fancy blue stuff that goes in the slots to make it look pretty. Don't know what that is. This is for the LCD up front. It's also nice they give you the SD card. Of course, the instructions and stuff are on here, but they also give you an SD card reader in case you don't have one. So, handy to have that. Coming over here, you get your whole toolkit, which is actually surprisingly comprehensive. You get wrenches. I'm guessing this bolt is a spool holder. You get snippers for moving support, which is nice. Allen wrenches, screwdrivers, and a few assorted color binder clips. Not the prettiest, I might just use my own if I need them. Cables for the LCD, power cable, looks like a motor mount. Maybe they just give you an extra in case one breaks or something, not too sure, or that's meant to go somewhere. Power supply, now this is definitely something that I will be tearing into just to take a look at the wiring. I did check, there's a nice fuse in here. It's a 5 amp fuse, which is perfectly appropriate for this power supply. Switching, make sure you switch it to the right voltage if you do have any of these power supplies. So I mean, from initial inspection looks good, but until I crack this open and take a look at the wiring and the crimping done in there, I won't be able to say for sure. This looks like just the DC output, so this is going to go straight to the control board. Then we've got a length of PTFE tubing, pretty basic stuff, and a bunch of wires. And now, luckily, these are labeled, at least, sort of. Y, Z2, E, all that stuff. So it's going to be much easier to track these cables, and once you get them all wired up together and in cable management, it'll be easier to figure out which cable goes where. Then we've got two end stops, which I'm guessing are for the Y and Z axis because the X axis already has it installed. Staring into the bed, this is pretty impressive, at least at first glance. You get a nice 300mm PCB style heater. Now this is pretty thick aluminum, looks like 1/8 inch aluminum or 3mm or so. It's nice that it comes with this cable chain and everything already wound through it. Definitely is going to make assembly easier. And of course everything is already soldered on there. It even looks like the LEDs are on there, although it's kind of hard to tell. I'm pretty sure there are LEDs on there though, which is nice. And the thermistor is held on with painter's tape, so I'll be replacing that tape with Kapton, just something that can handle a bit higher temperatures without smelling funky. But, you know, just a pretty standard, nice big aluminum bed. Now, the nice and weird part is they include this build surface, which is a build tack-like material. I'm guessing it's going to work pretty similarly to build tack. which means parts are going to stick super well and never come off, which is fun. But the weird thing is they also give you this sheet of acrylic. It's 1/8 inch clear acrylic, and I guess the idea is that you put this surface, you put the surface on the acrylic, and then you use the binder clips to stick this to the aluminum bed, and that way you can kind of take this off and flex your prints off of it, which is an interesting solution. However, I did measure the resistance of the heated bed, and it's only going to be putting out about 90 watts of power, which means it's not going to get super hot. It's going to be very tricky to even hit 60 degrees Celsius or so. So adding extra layers of acrylic, which is basically just thermal insulation, is going to make the surface be even cooler and not going to be that great. So I may just go ahead and stick that sheet straight to the aluminum and skip that acrylic. Now into the main stuff. This is where all the fun bits are. We've got cable management and belts. We've got the extruder module, which is pretty nicely assembled all in one. Actually a surprisingly rigid module. Now these wheels, they don't have any of the, I forget what you call it, the one that you can kind of use to adjust the tightness on it. Nonetheless, it should work all right. That is probably going to be an upgrade that I will do later on down the road. But it does come with a hot end in there with the cooling fan in this case. It's got a blower fan for cooling the part, as you can see, a little duct hole. Yep, there you go. And it's got the end stop on here. And it's all in this cable chain, which goes to the end. Now this is not secured yet, but yep, it looks like you can just very easily bolt this cable chain onto the little post right here, and you'll be good to go. Although that is vertical. Okay, so you have to turn that sideways. My bad. But yeah, it looks like it's pretty simple to just go ahead and bolt that in place. So that's nice. That should be pretty easy to do. Now this is actually a surprise. It is a custom control board. It's not a ramps board. It is actually made by, well, at least designed by TronXY. And it looks pretty similar to like a mini Rambo style kind of board. It's got the 4 integrated stepper drivers, which I believe are just your run-of-the-mill A4988s. Your outputs for the LCD. You've got your terminals for the power in and heat out and stuff. And then just a standard USB and an SD card slot. So pretty basic board, although it's a nice compact design and it's not this stupidly, obtrusively tall ramp style, which is definitely a benefit. Here we've got a brick of bolts and what's not, and springs, and I don't even know what else. That'll be fun. Here we've got some nice and greasy bearings and whatever. Okay, there we go. So we've got two actually top threaded rod bearings for securing the tops of those, which is good because it's a pretty tall bed and you can't leave those unsupported. And then we've got 4 linear bearings for the Z-axis. Of course, they're probably pretty cheap linear bearings, but we shall just see how they do. Those can always be upgraded if needed. Here we've got what looks like the 2 for the Y-axis, the 2 sliders, and these are going to be connected with an extrusion in the middle. One thing that I did notice on some other reviews is that unfortunately the belts are not designed so that they run perfectly parallel or perpendicular or whatever with the motion. As you can see, these Y-axes are stacked, which means one of the belts is going to be parallel and the other belt is going to have to curve in because they don't have it mounting in the appropriate place or whatever. So that is something that I'm going to have to 3D print to fix, at least so I think. But it's not a huge deal. That is definitely something that can be fixed. Oh, and they even label which is right and left. Also, these are not aluminum. These are just pretty thick. Or are these aluminum? Never mind. These are aluminum. They're just coated in some like plasticky coating, I guess. Unless this is acrylic. But pretty rigid. Definitely doesn't feel like it's going to snap on me, so whatever, it'll work. Here we've got the motors. There's 2 of these for the 2 Z-axis lead screws, and they're just mounted on these things. Now this is why I was wondering what that other thing was before. I think it's just an extra one of these in case it breaks, but it looks exactly the same, so yeah, I'm guessing that's what it is. Cooling fan for, I'm assuming, the control board. This probably just mounts over top. extruder. Now this is another thing that I'm going to probably be replacing ASAP. It actually does have decent filament guidance going in there. Focus. As you can see, the start of the guide is pretty much right after the knurled gear. However, this is a pretty junky looking drive gear. It's just one of those basic brass ones that doesn't have any contours or anything. It's just a straight tooth brass gear, which isn't good. It'll work, but it won't work that great. But it should get it printing at least. We've got the LCD with a giant knob. Actually, this feels pretty good, better than any other Chinese LCD that I've used. So nice. Looks like we've got a little assortment of brackets and mounts and whatnot. Don't really know what any of these do, and only one of these is 3D printed, so major props to them for that. We've got some more brackets. Again, they are labeled left and right. And we've got threaded nuts and feet. And we've got the two X and Y axis motors with what just looks like 20-tooth GT2 pulleys on here. The just standard pulleys that pretty much every printer uses. And then finally, I'm not going to take all this stuff out, but there is a bunch. Oh yeah, there's this I want to show off. This is pretty nice. 1/8" aluminum, machined aluminum plate for, this is going to be each side of the Z-axis. Or, yeah, so like the actual Z-axis that goes up and down. So you got your linear bearings, you got your threaded rod, and these are connections for, unfortunately, some not as strong square aluminum tubing, which is going to be crossed like this, and you're going to have, you know, the whole square thing going on. But it does seem like it will be fairly rigid and quite a bit better than I expected. You've got linear rods and lead screws for the Z-axis, and then the rest of the stuff is just aluminum extrusions for the frame of the printer. Now, it does secure just at the top by screws, which is fine on smaller printers, but for a bigger printer, it might have some rigidity issues, so I may have to reinforce that a bit with just some corner extrusions. I have plenty of those, so I can easily throw a few in just to strengthen it up. But overall, I'm pretty happy with this kit. There's only a few sketchy things. I did also forget to mention that these pulleys are pretty sketchy. They're basically just metal washers with a bearing on the inside, which should work okay, but it's definitely not ideal, and it is something that I'll be upgrading also pretty early on. But I mean, overall, I'm pleasantly surprised with the contents of this kit. I won't be able to say too much until I actually build it, but I do have pretty high hopes. Now, out of the box, it's probably not going to print that great. However, it has a lot of potential, and it looks like most of the upgrades that are needed are fairly easy to greatly improve print quality. So getting pretty good prints out of this printer, and with it being such a large-scale printer, I'd say early impressions are that it is well worth the $300 investment. However, please stay tuned for later videos, because that is not my final verdict. That is just initial impressions. And once I get this thing printing, I will see just how good it really is. So thank you guys for watching. If you are interested in this printer, link will be down below to it. You can check out more info about it there. And if you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. If you own this printer or know anybody who does, I'd love to hear your thoughts about it. Again, leave comments below. If you liked, hit the like button, and I will catch you guys later.